Money, aka cash, dough, bank stacks, Benjamin's Dosh, paper racks, moolah. This thing we spend so long trying to acquire, this phenomenon we believe will solve all our problems and allow us to live a life free of worry on a beach in Bora Bora with a margarita in hand. Most spend 60 years trying to acquire enough of it, but don't spend 60 minutes researching what it actually is. I believe your chances of being financially free will be increased tenfold if you understand what money actually is. The official definition of money is a current medium of exchange in the form of coins and banknotes. Or as Wikipedia defines, money is any item or verifiable record that is generally accepted as payment for goods and services. Now that may seem bland, but if you look closely, this is very interesting. A current medium of exchange. So that means it can and does change. Any item that is generally accepted as payment. So that means we can actually choose what money is. If we all began using a certain thing as money, that would become money. So in truth, what the current version of money is actually up to the people. Now we have had banknotes and coins for a very long time, so I understand that this may be hard to accept, but stay with me. Money really is whatever people see as having value. I will sell you this fidget spinner for this amount of X, because I believe I can then buy goods and services with that X, because other people also see the same value in X. What I find strange is that none of these definitions of money mention value, and the definition of value is the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. So then it follows that whatever we collectively as a society regard as valuable can be money. But to evidence this, we need to go back in time. The first ever money. In ancient times, exchange of value was done through bartering, usually livestock, grain, cowrie shells, and beads. The first known currency appeared 5,000 years ago, the Mesopotamian shekel, which was both a coin representing a specific weight of barley and the weight of that sack of barley. The very first mints date all the way back to 600 BC, where the elites of Ionia and Lydia would use stamped silver and gold coins to pay soldiers. There's a common theme throughout though. Money is always itself valuable or represents and can be directly exchanged for something of value. That something of value is usually either rare, like gold, silver, or cowrie shells, or it takes effort to produce, like in the case of livestock and grain. And this just makes sense. Even now when I go to the beach, I see cowrie shells as far more valuable than other shells. Why? They're rarer and harder to find. This is also what gives gold its higher value over other metals. It's rarer and harder to find. So when last was our money truly valuable? Well, money works on a scale from what I would call real money to fake money. And Wikipedia describes this well. It may have intrinsic value, like commodity money, be legally exchangeable for something with intrinsic value, which is representative money, or only have nominal value, which is fiat money. So, on one side we have intrinsically valuable money. Along the line we have currency that can be exchanged for that intrinsically valuable thing at any time. It represents a unit of the valuable thing. And finally, we have fiat money, which itself is not intrinsically valuable and is also not tied to anything intrinsically valuable and therefore cannot be exchanged for that intrinsically valuable thing. So where are we? We're completely on the fiat money side. But is current money valuable? The short answer is only because people still regard it as valuable. It has zero intrinsic value itself and does not represent an equal unit of something intrinsically valuable, and can't be directly swapped for anything valuable. The only reason you can use it to buy things is because that service or seller believes it still has value. Surprising? Maybe you already knew this. But the next question is, are you okay with this? I believe the current state of money to be in the worst position it has ever been in. It has never been based so much on the simple belief that it is valuable. And the last time money had any real value was in August of 1971. And since 1879, a century earlier than that, the US had been on the gold standard. This meant dollars could be exchanged directly for their same value in gold. In this way, dollars were backed by and represented a unit of gold. Gold being rare and having intrinsic value means that dollars are rare and have intrinsic value. But on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon announced that the US would no longer convert dollars to gold at a fixed value, thus abandoning the gold standard and creating the fiat money system. But how did we get to this point? To understand this, we need to go back in history to the Great Depression. At this time, consumers lacked confidence in the economy and began hoarding gold. And in response to this, in March 1933, President Roosevelt declared a nationwide bank moratorium to prevent a run on the banks by consumers who lacked confidence in the economy. He then forbid banks to pay out in gold or to export it. And one of the best ways to fight off economic downturn, according to Keynesian economic theory, is to inflate the money supply. And by increasing the amount of gold held by the Federal Reserve, that would increase its power and ability to inflate the money supply. During the same period, also facing pressure, Britain had dropped the gold standard in 1931, and Roosevelt had watched this move closely. Then, on April 5th, 1933, Roosevelt ordered everyone holding gold coins and gold certificates worth more than $100 to turn them in to the Federal Reserve for other money at a set price of $20.67 per ounce. And by May 10th, the government had taken in $770 million worth of gold coins and certificates. And shortly after this, in 1934, the government price of gold was increased to $35 per ounce, effectively increasing the gold on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet by 69%. And this increase in assets allowed the Federal Reserve to further inflate the money supply. And yes, now that it was in their ownership, they just made up a new value, over double what they gave the people for the same commodity, so they could print more dollars. Important here though, is that the dollar at this point is still backed by gold. Even if gold's rapidly changing value in dollars is questionable, the dollar is still tied to gold. And from this point, the government held the $35 per ounce price until August 15, 1971. This is when President Richard Nixon removed the ability for people to swap their dollars in for the same value in gold. But why did he do this? In 1971, there was a rise in inflation. This meant people wanted more dollars for products and services. The dollar is seen as less valuable. This also gave rise to a looming gold run, where people don't see value in the dollar and would rather have gold. Sound familiar? This is because gold has intrinsic value. People understand why it has value. But if everyone moved into gold, that would reduce the power of the reserve to inflate the money supply. So no more gold for you. We will keep it all, and you have to use what we tell you to use. But then why did this affect the rest of the world? Well, it's important to note that at this time, the international monetary system was based on the Bretton Woods system, a system that meant countries agreed to keep their currencies fixed to the dollar. So you could exchange euros, for example, for dollars at a set rate, and then dollars were fixed to gold. So everyone was still on the gold standard, even if indirectly. The majority of money was still directly or indirectly convertible to gold. But President Nixon's policy completely abandoned that gold standard, money having any real value within itself, and moved the world into a state of fiat money where the reserve could print at will. But how much do they really print? Well, in the last 12 months alone, it's estimated that they printed 40% of all US dollars to have ever existed in the history of the world. So how valuable do your dollars feel now? I guess at this point, at least money is ink on paper, and that has to count for something, right? Well, no. That would mean a lot of physical printing. Only 3% of money is still in the form of old-fashioned cash. 97% is actually in the form of what they term bank deposits. What are those? Well, when you log into your bank account, you see a number on the screen. Now that number doesn't actually even represent paper money. It's actually just an IOU from the bank. Now yes, you can spend these IOUs as if they were $10, but in this way, the banks have created a substitute for money without having to actually physically print it. So how is money created today? I think this is best shown by the statement by Sir Mervyn King, who said, "When banks extend loans to their customers, they create money by crediting their customers' accounts. So wait, they just make money by approving a loan?" Well, yes. As Martin Wolf put it bluntly, the essence of the contemporary monetary system is the creation of money out of nothing by private banks, often foolish lending. Why do the banks like lending? Interest. They earn big off the interest they charge you on that money. So wait a minute. Current money is not valuable in itself. It is not based on something intrinsically valuable. It cannot be exchanged directly for a unit of something valuable. It is 97% made up of IOUs and can be created out of thin air and then used to earn interest. Well, that just seems like a recipe for disaster. It is. Remember 2008? The 2008 crisis was rooted in exactly this: foolish lending to earn interest off as many people as possible. This is why credit cards and loans are pushed so hard. Today, the US debt clock is at an insane 28 trillion US dollars. Credit card debt is at 994 billion US dollars. To make this more understandable, the debt per US taxpayer is a staggering $225,000. Debt per citizen is $84,000, and debt per student is $39,000. So what kind of interest does that create for those lending what they create out of thin air? Well, the US total interest paid is approaching 3.9 trillion US dollars. And yes, that is 3.9 thousand billion, or put another way, 3.9 thousand million. So how do we fix this? How do we fix something so big, so entrenched? How do we fix something that the most powerful people and institutions in the world do not want to fix? All I can say is never underestimate human ingenuity. Although 2008 was a dark cloud, a silver lining appeared in response to it, a glimmer for those who want change, who want to see real money again. It was created by the people, focusing on what our ancient relatives taught us was truly valuable. It is perfectly rare. It is immutable and cannot be corrupted. It is verified by all the people and not centralized institutions. It can only be created through an intensive process. The people can lend and earn interest, not the banks. It is as valuable as the people believe it is, not what an institution determines. The creators are anonymous and it cannot be stopped. It returns the power to the people. It is the new cowrie shell, and it is Bitcoin. Not convinced? Remember, money is based on what people believe is valuable. So let me put some Bitcoin in your right hand and some fiat money in your left. Which will you part with first to pay for something? Drop a comment.